Hello and welcome to another Nomads video. I'm your host Swkoll, and today we're going over the changes in Build 37 and my thoughts on them to the Nomads faction of Forge Alliance Forever. This faction is integrated with Forge Alliance Forever. There was an update earlier today, and you can find Forge Alliance Forever at faforever.com. You can download it there, it's free. You get all sorts of cool mods and support just like this one, which adds an entirely new faction to the game. And now I believe I will go into everything they've put into the changelog. The first thing is the Tech 2 stationarity. It's got its muzzle velocity decreased by 5. So as you can see, once it turns around and fires, the projectile will actually fly slower than it would than another faction. I can only imagine this would be done to make it harder to hit naval targets, thus making this anti-naval weapon slightly worse. As you can see, there it goes. It's slightly slower. You probably can't notice the difference, but it's definitely there. It's got its nice Nomads flair to it. Next up is the rocket artillery. Actually, I think that's the one unit I forgot to build. Dang it, I was getting so prepared. I got all the units that changed, and I forgot the rocket artillery. Come on, rocket artillery. Let's get that up there. Apologies. This thing has been changed quite dramatically. It has been increased by 500 math in terms of cost. It also costs 6,000 more energy and 25% more build time. It is now slightly larger. It used to be a 2x2, and now it's a 3x3. I don't know if that's why the texture is weird, but I am assuming it is. Its DPS has also been buffed from 337 to 378, making each projectile do 50 more damage, and it now consumes 300 more energy per second. Yep. It now shoots more missiles. Well, it has more DPS overall. Moving on, display bug was fixed with the Tech 2 mass fabricators. Actually, wrong thing. Here's our rocket artillery. As the Tech 3 surface-to-air missile launcher has also been changed. You can't actually fire ground with this, but also the ACU bombardment. Let's call down a bombardment on our rocket installation. It now does friendly fire damage, so you'll now have to watch out for orbital bombardment destroying your own units. As you can see there, damage has been done and the 50-second countdown timer has been started. Although, I think that's overall a very good thing, because you really don't want to be orbital bombarding your own base, because that seems a bit weird and out of fashion. And rocket artillery installation, the new buffs make it a lot more practical to build a single one of these things to attack a turtle or a forward PD base. And the orbital bombardment has increased its radius from 4 to 5, as you can see there. It's just about 5. And now the new update also came with 3 optional Nomads mods. One of one of them adds commanders like this into the rest of the game. This allows you to pre-build your commander with all the mods you want on it. We have 5 models, including, well, excluding the default no upgraded one. The general pre-enhancement gets you your right arm gun and your left arm engineering. Your combat model will get you the right arm gun, the improved locomotor, and the left arm gun, while the engineer will get you right arm engineering, left arm engineering, Rambo. Now this is a fun one. You get your rapid repair back. This is equivalent of a nano type thing. You also get the left gun, and you get both, and you get the very strong right arm gun. Doesn't actually show you, but you can look here. Actually, you can't look here. It's the upgraded right arm gun. Gets more DPS. I believe, is that more range? Doesn't appear to be more range, but I'm not familiar with the upgrade. You can also get the sniper, which gets you the sniper mode, the second gun, and nothing on the left arm. So this just gives you some options in what you want to be doing. Saves you time, because you don't have to wait for it to be built and then get the options. You can just say, I want all of these things, and then you can be done with them. The mod also enables these things for the other factions, so you can do that as well. The other mods, I believe, there's a Tech 2 PD mod, which is if it goes through something and overkills it, it will actually pierce through the target and continue going, allowing it to be more effective against Tech 1 units and very cheap units. Yeah, and support commanders also have some other changes. Base weapon damage has been increased by 50 to 350. Sniper mode adds another 15 range. Let's see. Let's have our ACU enter sniper mode. Can now shoot all the way over there. It's quite a bit of range. This now allows him to outrange most, I believe all Tech 2 units. He now has more range than a mobile missile launcher. Yeah, but he does not outrange Tech 3 RDs or Tech 2 RDs. So sniper mode is slightly more useful. You don't always have to get so close. Now to use these things, let's shoot it. Something's shooting and I don't know what's shooting. Oh, you, I thought I told you to stop. Oh well. Moving on, now here's some interesting stuff. Land units, especially our friend the medium tank. His speed has been reduced from 3.6 to 3.5, making him slightly slower. This will make him more distinctive against Manti, and all around will allow other factions like the Striker to compete more effectively against the Bandit. We've also got the Tank Destroyer, has been decreased in build time by 20. It's also increased in speed to 2.5 from 2.3, and its rate of fire has been slowed down by 0.01. Let's get him out. Now 10% slower fire rate. As you can see there, takes slightly longer than it used to. Now, one of the Nomads' unique new units, the Emt Tank, has been changed around quite a bit. Its vision radius has been buffed by 2. I think that was just for consistency's sake. That isn't a huge balance change. But the damage radius, this thing has a lot more AoE now. It's now at 1.3 versus 1.2, which isn't actually that much, but it is quite significant in EMPing hordes of Tech 1 units. This makes this unit a lot more effective against Tech 1, So you might want to get this in the early Tech 1, Tech 2 stages, or that transition stage. Although it now stuns slightly slower, and has a 20% faster rate of fire to 0.8. Usually it's two guns wailing away at whatever mole army the Nomads wish to defeat. The field engineer has been buffed. Scarab. Its TMD is now at a range of 25. I'm assuming this is ring right here, which will now protect you from tactical missiles slightly longer, or over a slightly larger radius. This will make it more practical in armies, because it can protect the whole wide berth of the army from tactical missiles shooting at it. It also can make as a useful mobile TMD now. I don't think it's efficient mass for mass, but you can definitely try. Oh yes, its mobile missile launcher has been changed around quite a bit as well. Let's see this guy in action. Its cost has been increased by 40 mass to 200. They've toned down the trails, which is nice. A lot of people were requesting that, but I was told they're actually just reskinned Flapjack missiles with this flare added. They look a lot nicer now. Way more realistic looking, if you will. Their energy cost has been almost doubled to 1500 from 800, and their build time has been increased 20%. As well as their firing randomness has increased by another 0.1 to 0.9, which isn't a huge firing randomness, but it can affect your target. You see, we're aiming here, slightly off that time. I'm not aware why they nerfed the mole missile launcher so hard. Someone could explain that to me. I actually have not compared this to other mole missile launchers. This might just be putting it more in league with the other mole missile launchers and not making it incredibly cheap to counter PD creeps. Although they do need a better mole missile launcher, considering their Tech 2 point defense is absolutely awful. By absolutely awful, I mean slightly worse than the others. Moving on, we have the Tech 3 tank. This is the super heavy tank. A lot of people were concerned it was way too effective against navies. And I believe that sentence I casted, it was used way too effectively as an anti-naval weapon. So they have nerfed its speed from 4 to 3.5. This makes it a lot harder to dodge projectiles, especially from destroyers and frigates. So now it will be slightly easier to kill, though it still has its 5,500 health. Now moving on to the experimentals, they've really gone all out and changing these things around. Beamer has been increased its health by 2,000, making it slightly less paper, although it's still entirely paper. And its on-death explosion damage has been increased by 1,500. Let's Control K that to 4,000. Although it's very small, so its splash didn't actually kill anything. I don't know. Crawler has been also changed. It's saying something about removed miscellaneous overlay. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe that's a graphical thing? Anyways, its tactical missile damage has been increased by 175 to 800, making it a lot more effective at long-range bombardment. You hordes of missiles destroying the poor trees. Setting is no place for eco-friendliness. In other news, it has increased its fusion missile damage by 50 to 350 from 300. Its fusion missile range has increased by 120, so this will be a much more effective bombardment weapon, giving it that additional range and allowing it to shoot all sorts of stuff from farther away. I'm not exactly sure what is around 110 to 120 range. I believe this allows it to outrange stationary arties now, although I could be mistaken. This thing could either have like 90 range or 120, but it's definitely up there. So the thing now definitely outranges this. It is firmly a bombardment experimental. It is even worse than the Fat Boy at up close and direct fire, although it has superior range to the Fat Boy, as you can clearly see. The Bullfrog has been changed quite a bit as well, though not as much. Its anti-air weapon has been buffed by 5 damage points. This will completely change everything, guys. 5 damage points. You heard it here, 5 damage points. It now can counter an interceptor at Tech 1 slightly more effectively. I think we'll have to redesign Forged Alliance around this change. But, all joking aside, its crash damage is also increased by 100% to, let's see, 1,000, and its death weapon radius has been increased to 7. So this thing has a decent death radius. We can pull it in here, set it to Control K, and explosion. Air units have been changed around quite a bit. The Tech 1 bomber, or the Nomads' stronger early game units, has been increased. Its range has decreased. I'm sorry, so it'll be harder to micro at this point because it can only shoot so far in front of it. Although it can still shoot in front of it, so it is a very big advantage that the Nomads still have. See the missiles come down, hit their mark, and the Tech 1 bomber flies away. Although you'll have to slow it down a lot more before you're hitting your targets. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem if you are a Bomber Micro Pro, which I am not at all. I'm clicking a lot. Does that mean I'm microing it effectively, guys? Now, the Fighter Bomber has been changed to allow it to predict ahead for bomb drop at a time. I think this will just let it hit its target more often. See, it comes in. Also gets those nice missiles. And the bomb. I always like how the Fighter Bomber of the Nomads has 2 ground attacks, as well as its air attack. One of the more versatile air units. I think it might be the most versatile. Just because of that. The ASF has been buffed slightly. I believe it's a buff. It doesn't actually completely tell me, but it says its health has increased by 50, and its damage of both weapons has gone back to 72, giving it a DPS of 432. Can't speak. Tech 3 Bomber. I think this is just more of a reducing faction diversity in the sake of balance type thing, where you have to make it more similar to the other ASFs to allow it to compete more effectively in air fights. Tech 3 Bomber, the Carpet Bomber, has been decreased its airspeed as its elevation has increased and its range has increased. It's interesting what they're thinking about doing it here. They're allowing it to be slightly easier to kill with air because it moves slower and you can catch up to it faster, but it also gives it that higher range, which means that as the bomber comes by, you will be more effective at avoiding your SAM missiles because it can hit them before your SAM missiles catch. It can hit its target before the SAM missiles catch up to it. So this makes it a lot more weaker to air, but a lot stronger against structures like SAMs. The Comet, Air Experimental, also known as the UFO, as people have been calling it, its movement speed has been increased by 20% to 120. No, not 120. No, 12. Alright, Pip. I want this to go at 120. I'm sure it won't be overpowered. I mean, that could just be... Probably could go from the island to beach in 1 or 2 seconds. I'm sure that'll be fine. Now the Navy. The Navy has been almost completely rebalanced since I last made my video. Let's go over the units one by one. The Cruiser which is the Emp Cruiser. This has been accused of being slightly overpowered due to its ability to stun whatever it wants. And if you have a number of them in late game naval battles, they can completely stop your opponent's navy from firing and win. So to stop this, the stun duration has been decreased by 0.1, and the damage radius has been increased by 0.1. So slightly slower damage, slightly higher AoE, or slower duration. Interesting, you can't actually see. Is that a graphical error? Can I actually shoot at the cruiser with my orbital bombardment weapon? Because that's kind of dumb. I should be able to shoot all the way over here. Or maybe it's a range thing. Might be a range thing. Yeah, I think that's a range thing. It's a bit weird. I don't see a circle for it. Come on, cruiser. I need to kill you. With orbital stuff. Although they did a nice job with the aesthetic on this unit. I believe I mentioned that before. Very nomad-y looking. Oh, come on. You couldn't even kill it. The destroyer has been... It's not a destroyer. The Firestorm Destroyer has been buffed quite significantly. This is a very powerful destroyer now. Its range has increased by 10 to 80. What this means is it starts putting itself in the class of the Cyber Destroyer in long-range destroyer bombardment of targets. So you can now effectively kite with this destroyer against other navies, like the UEF. It also has its initial damage increased by 30, and its total DPS has also been increased by 30. It's a nice turn rate for a naval unit. But this is a very effective destroyer now. I guess they're buffing it because it no longer has to deal with shields. Because there's no Nomad shields. They wanted powerful destroyer to be able to kite the UEF naval shields. And possibly the Aeon naval shields. The heavy destroyer, its range has been buffed by 10 points to 100. So now you're seeing quite the naval bombardment this thing can give. Also going in with the theme of allowing the Nomads to kite other units in the sea. whereas the tactical missile sub, its missile damage has been buffed by 50, and its rate of fire has been increased by about almost 50%. It now also sends 6 torpedoes doing 175 damage from 4 doing 250 damage. So now slightly more torpedo DPS. And more of them, making it harder to counter with torpedo defenses. And now finally, we got the aircraft carrier, which is kind of a cyber aircraft carrier, but we'll excuse that. Work in progress and all that. Its projectile velocity of its anti-air weapon has been increased by 20, making it a much more effective anti-air. Its projectiles on fire has been increased to 4 from 1, and its TMD fire rate has been halved to 1 from 0.5. This is making it a much more anti-air cruiser rather than TMD unit, because you know the heavy destroyer, unlike the UBFs, well, not the UBF's heavy destroyer, but the name escapes me, but you know what it is. It's the not battleship. I think it actually might be a heavy destroyer. Doesn't matter. But anyways, these balance changes are very interesting. Definite buffs to the Navy. I'd like to see what Nomads Navy can do in a sentence now. Also, interesting move with the commanders. A lot of ease of use going into them now. Just easily get the commander you want. Experimentals, much more exciting, much more specific in what they can do. Rocket artillery is a lot more practical now. Tech 1 tank is a lot more fair. And all these units, just generally good buffs. And importantly, most importantly, is you can slaughter your own engineers if you're not careful. Die, Nomads, NGs.
You're in my way.
Yep. Well, I hope you enjoyed this overview of Build 37. This is all over in the forums. I probably should have mentioned that. Link will be in the description. You can go comment on the balance there. Please don't start a war in the comments section about the balance and how my opinions are definitely wrong and how I have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. I'm looking at you, Pip. Nah, but hope you enjoyed this and hope you found it informative. I'd like to see some more Nomads games with some pros. If you have one, send it to me. And good night.